Well, the cat's out the bag, and we're having a baby.
Yes, in this video, we are going to be discussing how we are managing our finances in preparation for expanding our family, how we are doing financially through this transition, and hopefully you'll be able to pick up some tips on how you can help prepare your finances if you're considering expanding your family in the future, or maybe way into the future.
Hey Wealth Builders, my name is Mishak.
And I am Akiva. I'm a certified financial planner and money coach for young professionals in their 20s and 30s. Now, we've prepared for this milestone for quite some time when it comes to the money side of things, and we're excited to share with you some of the things that we have learned so far, some of the missteps we've made so far, and like I said, hopefully you'll be able to take away a pointer or two from this video. So let's first talk about how we prepared our finances before we even got pregnant. I guess let's talk about this in three phases: before pregnancy, during this phase of pregnancy, and what we are doing now to prepare for postpartum, essentially. So before we even got pregnant, we were planning for this. I mean, that should be no surprise to you all.
Yes.
We are planners, we cannot help ourselves. So yes, even before we decided that kids were something that we were now open to / trying for, however you want to phrase that period, we were making moves.
Yeah.
So what are some of the moves that we made before this little one even came into existence?
So as you guys know, we've been paying down our student loan debt. So that's something that we started doing in preparation because that was really important to us. We didn't want to bring more life into the world, which, I mean, let's face it, that is another mouth to feed, more expenses. Well, we had something like student loan debt looming over our heads. So that was, I would say, step one that we did. We decided that we were going to rapidly pay off as much debt as we possibly could. And for those of you that have been watching, you know, we've made a few payments thus far. We made a few off camera that we didn't share with you, but we'll link some of those old videos somewhere on the screen.
Yes, and a net worth update is coming out in the next couple of weeks
We've
to
been
catch you all up
delinquent.
on our net worth for like the entire year thus far. So you will see what things we've been doing even for the past, few months going on. So we aren't debt free completely yet, but as Mishak mentioned, and that was really the bulk of 2022, was really just focusing a lot of our money on debt payoff. Yeah. Another big thing we did in preparation was saving. We were saving a lot of money.
So for those of you that have been watching our net worth updates, why are you guys having all this cash?
I noticed it. And somebody called me out. Like, are you guys having a baby? And I was like, uh-oh, it begins.
So that was a big reason why we were saving so much cash, because we wanted to plan for different things like, hey, how long do we want to stay home? Those type of questions, which we'll probably get into a little bit later. But that's why we were keeping so much cash. And again, babies are expensive. Healthcare costs, like the cost of furniture and things that you might need for said baby, it can run you a pretty penny. So we wanted to make sure we had all of our coins together.
Yes, and to give even more context, I think that's important. How much money did we actually save? So we were trying to get to a number that basically helped us to get through parental leave in the way that we wanted to do our parental leave and not feel like we needed to be rushed back to work, which honestly is the bulk of the money that we saved. And we'll talk about that, like we said, in a little bit more into the details of what we expect postpartum. But the bulk of our money, we saved a 5-digit sum, essentially, for this baby. About $15,000 or so we've allocated towards this phase. And like we said, most of that you would think is actually for the baby's expenses. That's probably that's a third, if that much. That's just to replace our income and to account for the expenses that we anticipate postpartum, once baby gets here. So yes, planning for leave, planning for postpartum, depending on the type of lifestyle you envision, can get quite expensive. So now moving into the current season, right? As you're watching this video, if you're watching this, that means that baby Ellis is going to make their appearance Earthside very soon, in a few weeks. So we have essentially gone through most of the pregnancy at this stage. And so what have we done during this pregnancy phase? And what were some of the things I would say that we least expected and some of the missteps that we took. One, I'll start with a misstep that we should have done in the pre-pregnancy stage that we waited too long to do and we lost the opportunity, which was signing up for the hospital disability Aflac stuff.
Oh yes,
that was one of the big mistakes.
And that was like a dumb move on my part because I work in this space, guys. So you would think that I would be like extremely prepared, which I kind of was. Like we had spoken about it, like, hey, instead of trying to save all of this money, how about we invest in insurance policies like Aflac or Hartford, just to name a few, and let's invest in maybe short-term disability policies so that when you are out of work, hope that will kick in if we're not able to save any money. Like it's worth paying those premiums, again, knowing that we're trying to get pregnant. And we just didn't do that. I don't know why. I had at least one opportunity, I would say last year during open enrollment, where I could have, added some of those things on, and we just didn't.
Yeah.
And that's something that I really wish that we had done because it would have helped so much. We know for the most part that Akiva was going to be hospitalized and baby would be hospitalized at some point. Yeah, for a couple of days.
If all goes according to plan and perfect.
And if we had a policy that was going to pay us out, $100 a day you're in the hospital or whatever, up to $500-$600 some of these policies can pay out. Like that's some serious cash where it's definitely worth your $40 or $30 a month premium. If you paid that every month, you're not going to have that type of return in such a short period of time. So I definitely wish that we had done that a little bit differently.
Yeah, and once you're pregnant, it's too late, FYI.
Yeah.
So that kind of ship is sailed, even outside of open enrollment. So if you have access to one of these policies, even if you just get it independently, because you can do that, you don't have to be tied to an employer to get those kinds of policies. Do that if you're thinking that you may get pregnant in the near future, right? It's something to consider. Of course, it's not advice. We're not telling you to go and do this, but for us, we thought it made sense, and we just were dragging our feet. So here we are. But one of the big things that really surprised us going into this pregnancy was how much we've been spending during pregnancy.
Yeah.
Like, it's been crazy. So in full disclosure, y'all, if y'all are interested in how pregnancy's been going for me, it's been going absolutely terrible. All right, -5 out of 10 experience so far. Highly do not recommend. I'm very much looking forward to labor and delivery, which is weird to say, but I swear it has to be better than this. Just saying.
And that's a big part of the reason why we haven't been making as many videos.
That's why we've been gone, because I have been non-existent, essentially. I have been of zero contribution to society for the better part of the last 6 months, okay? So just so you all know, like, that's what's been going on, and that's why you really haven't seen us or heard from us, like, at all, is because I've basically been, like, flat on my back, quite literally, for the last 6 months. So it's been really rough, but that has also resulted in a lot of medical expenses that we did not foresee or plan for going into pregnancy.
Like that, I will say, Akiva says that something that I would tell her is like, hey, you don't know the type of pregnancy that you're going to have.
He said this before we were even married. Yeah. That you're talking about kids. He'd be like, well, what if you can't work? I'm here used to like people working until the minute their contractions start. So I'm here thinking that's gonna be my experience. Nope. I used to shut him down all the time, like, oh no, it'll be fine. And I'm glad that was the perspective he had. That's exactly what happened.
Hopefully I didn't speak anything into existence, but it's something that you just don't know. Every woman is different, and the way that they're going to respond to pregnancy or just what their body might do, you just don't know. And I say that that's something that I had in the back of my mind, but yet did not necessarily quantify that with how much money we would potentially be spending. And I don't think, we haven't done the numbers to really know how much we spent so far, but if I were to ballpark it, I would say, excluding our deductible for our health insurance, we've probably put out maybe somewhere between $1,000 to maybe $1,500 with all of the expenses, and I'm talking like parking fees at the hospital or the doctor's office.
Because I was basically there every week. At one point, I was like, I'm back already. Like I was always there, and we have to pay for parking at the hospital that I go to. So that adds up.
Yeah, those little
every
things,
$6,
they add,
$8, it adds up. I've had a bajillion food aversions and food things and just like off the counter medicines that I've needed for the pregnancy, and so those, because these get expensive, like
vitamins, prenatal, like
supplements,
all of those things,
iron things, all kinds
like
of
you
different
said, the
things.
food aversions, like, hey, I don't want this, I want that, I want this. Like at one point I was just like, let's not even buy groceries because this doesn't make sense. You know, I buy this and it's like, oh, I can't stand the smell, I can't eat it. And it's like some things, you know, they spoil, where it's like, oh, well, that's a poor use of money. So at one point it was literally like, all right, what do you want? And I'll go get it. And as you know, that also can get expensive.
So basically just keeping up with all of the things that were going on in my body and what it needed in that moment it really became quite a bit. So outside of medical things, there was a lot of expenses related to just those things that we just did not anticipate. So on to the medical things. Speaking of which, thankfully, we have pretty darn good insurance. And that has been one of the biggest blessings of this pregnancy, especially for the fact that I've had to see all types of different specialists, I am way beyond standard prenatal care at this point. I'm done and tired of seeing all these people, constantly getting my blood drawn, constantly getting tests run, constantly seeing specialists. But thank God for good insurance.
Yeah. Like she said, at this point, the premiums that we are going to be paying out by the end of this year, she has definitely exceeded that in the dollars of care that have gone towards her and baby. Like she's always like, oh my gosh, you know, I'm looking in here and I'm looking at the claim amounts and it's like, wow, this is a lot.
Thankfully, like I said, we've already met the deductible for the year, long time, because of all the things I've had to do. So thankfully, like I said, as long as baby gets here before the end of the year, which they absolutely should, that every penny should be covered of whatever they choose to charge me. Whatever I choose to do in that hospital room should essentially be covered. So that is like the biggest tremendous blessing of this experience. Another big thing or exercise that we did was rehashing our budget to see what it's going to look like postpartum, especially when it comes to taking parental leave. Parental leave, y'all have got to plan for this. You have to. Many people wait until they're already pregnant to start thinking about leave, not thinking about what options they have, not knowing what options they have. We had to do that research, and we had to, you know, in the course of the pregnancy, really fine-tune our numbers to see how are we going to do this? How much time can we afford to take before we have to rush back to work? How do we want our lives to look like, you know, postpartum? So drafting that mock budget is a really, really helpful exercise, and one that we did. So for context, what's my maternity leave going to look like? The company that I currently have, you know, I'm working for full-time essentially, it's a very tiny company. So we're so tiny that I don't even qualify for FMLA. That's how tiny we are. So I will be relying on, thank God again that this exists, our state's paid family leave program that got instituted just a few years ago actually for the state of Massachusetts. That is what I'm going to be relying on for my leave, right? And so that is not going to be full payment. I'm expecting to probably bring in about half of my typical income when all is said and done. And so yeah, I'm trying to stay out as long as I can with the baby. And so although they do give you a good amount of time, I'm anticipating being out of work for at least 20 weeks, if not more, before having to go back to work. That's 20 weeks of making pretty much half of your normal pay. So it's like more expenses, less pay. He's also going to be using that program for some of the time as well. I think you get 6 weeks from your job fully paid.
So we're not sure, like we said, what we're looking at, but we go for a worst case scenario.
Which should be 20 under the plan when you really think about it. So that's the goal. So like I said, we're supplementing both of our incomes for that length of time. That's like what, 5 months of being out? Like,
so that $15,000, like we were mentioning earlier, that's where all of that money is literally going. And you know, if you guys know me, I'm definitely can be a little bit more laid back. And when Akiva was bringing this up, like, hey, we need to look at these numbers, I'm like, we have 15 grand, we're good. We're getting paid from the Massachusetts paid family leave. Like, what are you worrying about? And that was really ignorant of me, because I'm glad that we took the time to actually sit down and do the numbers, because afterwards we realized very quickly, like, oh my gosh, like that money is going to be gone like that.
What does that budget that we drafted look like now? We're anticipating having higher food expenses because yeah, who's cooking when you have a newborn in the house? No one, right? And again, we live not crazy far, but we live hours away. We are 2 states away, 4 hours away from family, right? So although I'm sure family will be here for a certain amount of time, they also have lives and things to do. So they're not gonna necessarily be here for long stints of time, or like we can rely on family to help come and help cook and clean and do those things. So we're not sure what that postpartum plan is gonna look like. So we have to be prepared to fund those things ourselves, right? And so it's great that both of us will be able to be home for such a long period of time. That is such a tremendous blessing, and I do not take that for granted at all. A lot of people do not get that kind of time. Some mamas are back at work in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
God bless you. Yeah. So we are in a very, very privileged and fortunate position to be, to do this. However, like I said, that is a change. It's a change, it's a transition. So upping our food budget, we are instituting things for like childcare and things that we might need once we return to work. We're kind of shifting to the postpartum conversation now, right? Because we do have to go back to work at some point. Like I said, it's just us. So we're gonna need some help with the baby while we're both working.
And another thing that we did do in preparation for whenever Akiva got pregnant was our 2023 budget. We actually altered it to include just something for childcare expenses. I think it's like $400 to $500, somewhere in that range. Again, as people who have children, you know that that's not even covering, like, for some people, diapers, depending on the brand that you buy, or when they get a little bit older, childcare if you're going to have someone watch your child or anything like that. But I think it really helped get us into like the right frame of mind, because it's like, okay, we have this $15,000, and then we're putting aside money already in our budget that has kind of been stacking on top of that $15,000. We'll obviously have to reassess for 2024, but that's what things look like right now.
Yes. So a lot of things have changed. A lot of updates have been made. We are kind of just taking things in stride as we go. So with that, we want to say a huge thank you to all of you. First of all, thank you for your patience. I know we've been gone forever, but now you know why. But don't worry, we are not going anywhere. We have parental leave proofed our posting schedule for videos. So even though we will be away, you will continue to see our lovely faces on the internet streets. So have no fear. Like I said, we are batching a lot of content so that there's always something for you all while we are transitioning to having this new little one in our lives. And we will continue to post updates as we learn new things, as we are fully in the postpartum phase. Of course, we're going to come back. Trust me, this channel is not going to turn into all baby content. We're definitely not doing that. But we just thought it was great to share with you all so you all know what's going on. And we will continue sharing from time to time these things as they happen to us, because that's life, right? Taking it as it comes. But we want to hear from you. For those of you who are either thinking about expanding your family, have expanded your family in the past, share y'all's best tips in the comments below. What are we forgetting? What are the things that we need to look out for just because we haven't crossed that bridge yet? What are some of the questions you all have around expanding your family so far and the financial aspects? Let's get the conversation going in the comments. And if you'd like to know how you are doing with your finances at this current stage of your life, we have a super fun quiz for you, literally in less than 2 minutes. Okay, less than 2 minutes. You are going to get a solid gauge on what's happening with your finances, and we're also going to be sending you tips and strategies in the areas that you might need to work on the most. So if you're interested in doing that, please, the link is going to be down in the description for you to take. Again, super fun. I'm heavily biased, but everybody tells me it's a super fun quiz. So go ahead and take that.
So thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe and click the notification bell so you never miss when we post great content just like this. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye.